Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
Honoring veterans past and present.
If they still aren't here with you, it's good to just think of them.
Ceremonies across BC and Canada mark Remembrance Day.
Further we go on from World War I and II, maybe we forget these things, and just important to remember.
Plus, how an American fought for Canada in World War II and why Canadians pushed for his sacrifices to be recognized.
He was technically a deserter from the United States Army.
Basically the definition of hero in the military.
And a Prince George man has been found guilty in the stabbing death of a young mother.
Hello, I'm Benita Brach, and thank you for joining us. For over 100 years, Canadians have marked Remembrance Day by honoring the service and sacrifice of veterans. Now, ceremonies were held across the province and country. Our Jessica Chung has more on how some are keeping the tradition alive.
A procession marches toward Veterans Square in Surrey's Cloverdale neighborhood to meet hundreds of onlookers there to honor Canadian veterans, both past and living. Hymns and songs weaved through the ceremony. All in attendance wore poppies that they later placed on the cenotaph as a sign of respect. And many who took part had their own personal stories.
Why did you come here today?
Because our great-grandpa fought in World War II.
Gurdev Gurwal served in Burma with the Indian Army and, according to his family, was one of the first Sikh veterans to march in these ceremonies.
It's just a way to kind of keep his memory alive and honor him. He used to actually walk this parade before he passed. So it's nice to connect and see some of his friends even walking today. And now we get to bring our kids out and carry his legacy. So that's just important for us.
This is just one of several Remembrance Day events that took place in the Lower Mainland, the largest of which was held here in Vancouver's Victory Square. It's the 101st time the event has taken place at this plaza, and it was greeted by a ceremonial flypast by the Royal Canadian Air Force. Now, it's been 107 years since the end of the First World War and 80 years since the end of the Second World War. And as the veteran population ages, their numbers quietly dwindling, and with them countless untold accounts of service and sacrifice, many say sharing and preserving those stories is more important than ever.
And I think the new generation, the further we go on from World War I and II, maybe we forget these things, and just important to remember, those that sacrifice for us, right? So just to teach him, and I brought him, I think, 3-4 years out now.
This generation, of course, didn't exist at the time of the war, but they're here now, and I just think that's incredible. I think that's important and vital, and that we do not forget our history.
A history strengthened by those who refuse to forget. Jessica Chung, CBC News, Surrey.
In the Second World War, an American who served with a Canadian military unit was recommended for this country's highest honor, but he was denied and even court-martialed by the United States. As Liam Britton reports, his American family and the Canadian regiment are seeking to honor him and correct what they argue was a historic wrong.
Beneath this simple plaque lies Millard Allison, better known as Tex.
I think he's a hero, just from my military service. When you see somebody actually do the type of thing he did with no regard to his own safety to save the other people, that is basically the definition of hero in the military.
Allison was an American, but he joined the British Columbia Regiment in the Second World War.
Tex Allison's tank goes first.
In April 1945, he led a tank advance over a canal in western Germany. His commander's vehicle was hit and in flames. Allison ran through enemy gunfire, carried his commander to safety, then dashed back for another survivor. And despite being badly burned, Allison then sped to his own tank and fought for 2 days, destroying 3 vehicles and killing 50 enemy soldiers.
My grandfather, after the war,
Allison was nominated for a Victoria Cross, Canada's highest award for military bravery. But the medal was downgraded to a Distinguished Conduct Medal.
Tanks of the 4th Canadian Armored Div.
The regiment's historian argues it's because Allison deserted the U.S. Army before his country was at war to join the fight sooner.
There's going to be media and press, and it's probably going to come up pretty quickly that this person is missing from the United States Army. It would be best if we just quietly downgraded it.
Allison left Canada for Texas after the war. There, he was arrested for desertion.
So he was in a tank made of this metal.
And this time, it was Canadians joining his fight, including his former commander.
And he wrote a long and a high praise letter directly to the general in charge of the court-martial that if they didn't want him anymore, the Canadian Army would love to have him back.
His copy of his court-martial trip.
But in the end, Allison was convicted. His grandson is lobbying officials in Canada, the U.S., even King Charles, to get his grandpa an honorable discharge and upgrade his medal.
It's kind of a shame that he was a hero for both countries, and then he was just kind of swept under the rug.
Hand-drawn maps.
His old regiment is fundraising for a headstone telling of his Canadian and U.S. service. They say it's about properly recognizing and honoring a soldier of two nations. Liam Britton, CBC News, Vancouver.
Remembrance Day services were also held in Europe. In the UK, a memorial service was held to honor fallen Canadian soldiers. As Anna Cunningham reports, thousands of them are buried at Brookwood Military Cemetery in southeastern England.
This is Brookwood Military Cemetery. We're actually in the county of Surrey. It's in southeastern England, and this is the biggest Commonwealth war graves cemetery in the UK. To give you an idea of just how large it is, it stretches right from the bottom there, surrounded by pine trees and fir trees and of course maple trees as well. And it goes right up, this is just the Canadian section, remember, it goes right up past the Canadian flag to the War Memorial, and that is where today's ceremony took place and wreaths were laid. Now, each of these headstones has a story to tell. You can see that some of those who died were aged just 18. Now, the veterans who attended today's service, for them, they said it was a moment of reflection.
It was so awe-inspiring to come overseas and to partake in these festivities. And today, capping it off with today, as a matter of fact, it was just a wonderful experience, surreal.
The significance of another country showing its honor and gratitude to us in such a way, both in ceremony and the way they keep the gravestones clean and they put flowers down and they put our Canadian flags down on our behalf, truly touches the soul.
Some of the gravestones here are marked with the date the 19th of August 1942. These are the Canadians who died in the ill-fated Dieppe raid. It was an Allied amphibious assault on Dieppe in northern France, which was under Nazi German occupation. But their cover was blown at sea. There was a big battle. Land forces continued on, but many Canadians were killed and many more also were taken prisoner of war.
The lessons of those previous wars need to be remembered now in order to avoid ultimately repeating all of that again.
It's a final resting place for some 2,700 Canadians who died, many of them decades ago. But today, they've been remembered. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, at Brookwood Military Cemetery in Surrey, England.
CBC News has learned of the death of a Canadian woman in Belize from local police. Marty Thorne's body was discovered early Monday morning at a resort when a caretaker found a pool of blood and called police. Thorne was found dead on the property with 8 stab wounds in her neck. One suspect is in custody and 2 more are still at large. Police say they believe Thorne might have known her assailants. Now, Thorne has 2 adult sons in Vancouver. Global Affairs Canada says it's aware of the death of a Canadian citizen in Belize, and it's in contact with local authorities to gather more information. Prince George man has been found guilty of first-degree murder in the stabbing death of a young mother. 25-year-old Zane Xavier Wood has been found guilty for fatally stabbing 22-year-old Isabel Thomas in front of her 2 children in 2023. The courtroom heard that Wood was inside Thomas's townhouse for approximately 35 seconds and stabbed her 16 times. Justice Michael Tammons said because of the brutality of the killing, it was beyond a reasonable doubt that Wood intended to kill her. He rejected that Wood was only trying to steal a PlayStation 4 and didn't intend to kill Thomas. Also rejected Wood's account of using drugs and hearing voices. The sentencing hearing is set for November 27th. The search for a senior believed to be missing on Burke Mountain is ongoing. That is according to the manager of Coquitlam Search and Rescue. Search and Rescue initially said that the RCMP had decided to end the search for 65-year-old Tosang Alfred Wong on Sunday afternoon. McDonald contacted CBC News later to say the search would resume this morning. Now, Wong was last seen in his car, a gray Chevrolet Cruze, at his home on November 4th. Police found his vehicle at the trailhead of the Coquitlam Lake Trail the next day. CBC News has reached out to the Coquitlam RCMP for more details on that search. Darius Madavi joins us now with a first look at the weather. Darius, what is in the forecast?
We have some stormy weather on the way, so I hope you enjoyed blue skies across the province, most of the province today, because that low pressure system sweeping through going to spread some stormy conditions, although a little bit of blue sky probably coming late in the day here on the coast. Now, we have had some moisture starting to stream in. We're going to see that low pressure system start to soak that up and push it over the shore. So expect to see some rain starting tomorrow, probably tomorrow morning, maybe even overnight tonight in many areas. So here we go. Let's run this forward. Here's some of that precipitation arriving. First for the North Island, working its way down. There we go. By tomorrow, probably late morning to late afternoon to early afternoon. I will say this model a little bit later than most.
Okay, thanks, Darius. We will check back in with you in a bit. Winter weather has come early to parts of central Canada, so heavy snow blanketed much of southern Ontario and about 35 centimeters fell in parts of Quebec. As Cobina Oduro reports, Quebec suffered widespread power outages and dangerous local road conditions, leading to many school closures.
Montreal received a lot of snow Monday evening and even on Tuesday morning. Environment Canada says this is the largest snowfall when it comes to 5 centimeters, 10 centimeters, 15 centimeters on the island of Montreal in the past 5 years. Just to paint a picture, I'm outside a car dealership. Covered in snow are the cars. And then if we look at the ground, there is some slush here. And Environment Canada says there was a rain mix with the snow and it made for slushy driving conditions. And that is not ideal for drivers. I'm here at a mechanic shop in Pierrefonds where they are taking off the summer tires to put on winter tires. And it's very busy over here. I'm with David Lento, the co-owner of this mechanic shop. What is the situation?
It's very hectic. As of this morning, the phone hasn't been stopped ringing. People are just trying to do anything to get some winter tires put on their vehicle.
And if I wanted to come here, or I called you on the phone and said, hey, David, I need to get these winter tires on. I don't feel safe driving in my summer tires. When can you get me an appointment?
Unfortunately, we're looking at the first week of December. We're running first, second of December. We're doing our very best to try to service everybody that we can, but obviously we're limited of what we can do in a short period of time.
What's the difference between last year and this year at this point in time?
Well, last year we were lucky because we made it to December without even having any snow, any slush. The mechanics were thrilled about that, not having water leaking on them while they're doing the tire changes and inspections on the vehicle. This year it's a different game and we have to do whatever we can to get people back on the road safe.
Thank you very much and good luck.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
So David and his crew are busy trying to get these winter tires on a bunch of cars. Appointments are hard to come by, and this is a reality for a lot of mechanics in Quebec. And CA Quebec says if you are going to drive, whether you have summers or winter tires, in winter conditions like this, drive very prudently. Cobina Oduro, CBC News, Montreal.
A former military training ground being searched for old explosives. Coming up, why that work is taking longer than expected.
Small businesses are facing extortion threats and violence. Families are afraid of their safety. As a pattern of targeted crime grows throughout our communities, your voice matters. Join us on November 13th at the Surrey Arts Centre for a special CBC News Town Hall, Extortion, Communities in Fear. It's totally free, but space is limited, so reserve your spot today by heading to cbc.ca/BC Community.
The former Blair Rifle Range in North Vancouver used to be a military training ground for soldiers fighting in the Second World War. While it's now used for recreation, crews will be spending more time there, cleaning old explosives after more munitions were found beyond the original search area. Danielle Piper has more.
The Department of National Defence has been doing some work in a well-known recreational hotspot. That spot's name is the Blair Rifle Range. It's a forested area in North Vancouver, located between Mount Seymour Parkway, Northlands Drive, and the Northlands Golf Course. It's a place known for hiking and mountain biking, but back in the 1930s, it was used by the Canadian Armed Forces for military training, and that training involved explosives, some of which remained there untouched.
I've heard them exploding munitions when they found them. So I think everyone in the community has heard the bangs.
That's Donna Sakuta, the executive director at the BC Labour Heritage Centre in Burnaby. She says there's a lot of rich history surrounding the range, starting with its creation, going all the way back to the Great Depression. That's when Donna learned that the range had once been used as an unemployed relief camp.
Single unemployed men who were destitute, had nowhere to go, were living on the streets, living wherever they could, and they were basically incarcerated in these relief camps at, I think it was 132 locations across the country. And they were put to work for very little money, and they served as essentially a form of slave labor to build the rifle range for the military.
So this rifle range has what the Defense Department calls unexploded explosive ordnances, or UXOs, some of which didn't always function as intended. Some of those UXOs are still there and can be dangerous if disturbed. In 2018, they found 5 mortar shells and a grenade.
I also used to live quite close to the rifle range lines, so kind of early on in that unexploded ordnance process with the DND, I actually heard them exploding one out my back window.
Cooper Quinn is the former president of the North Shore Mountain Bike Association. They maintain trails all across North Shore, including those on the Blair Rifle Range. Recently, the Defense Department said they are extending their search until the end of March 2026. And select trails will be closed on a rotating basis while they work. But Cooper isn't worried.
That's kind of how they started their search, was on what would be probably the heaviest use portions of the network there, where people would be most likely to encounter these explosives. And so they scanned along those trail networks. And then since then, in those subsequent years, as you know, they've been kind of expanding that outward. So we don't have any major concern.
The Department of Defense told CBC that the trails in Blair Rifle Range are safe for recreation, but they're still encouraging everyone to use good judgment. They advise staying on designated trails and ask that people refrain from digging or making campfires in the area. If you see something that looks like it may be an explosive, don't touch it. Turn around and leave the same way you came, and call 911. But for now, the search continues.
That's a lot of property to search. There's a lot of trees that have grown up. I can't imagine that you can do a proper search without removing the vegetation cover. So I suspect it will continue to take time.
For the early edition, I'm Danielle Piper.
And a look at the day over Vancouver's Deep Cove, calm waters, and some sunshine peeking through. Darius will have our full BC weather forecast after the break.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and this is your CBC Inbox.
Join CBC's Michelle Elliott on November 12th for an unforgettable evening of storytelling, leadership, healing, and unity at the Better Not Bitter Summit. For tickets, visit betternotbitter.ca. And the Chutzpah Festival returns November 12th to 23rd with an exciting lineup of performances including dance, music, theater, and more. For tickets, visit chutzpahfestival.com.
Okay, and Darius Madavi joins us now with our full BC weather forecast. Darius, we've been having some, crisp, sunny autumn days. What are we expecting now?
Some soggier autumn days is what I would say. Let's pick up where we left off. We were looking at this map of the south coast, watching that rain come in as we head into tomorrow morning, likely reaching the lower mainland by, at the latest, tomorrow at around noon. But some more southern areas, especially down in the Fraser Valley, maybe seeing that a little bit earlier in the morning. That precipitation then spreads across most of the south coast, and that will continue into Thursday morning. Some models have this and some models don't, but the heavy rain, very consistent. But what's beyond it, this little bit of clearing that may happen Thursday afternoon into Friday morning, no guarantees, but I think it is a very real possibility. Environment Canada is saying that it's going to rain right through the night Thursday and into Friday, but I think there's a good chance of some drier weather, so fingers crossed. That also means some snow coming up into the more northern areas and along those mountain ranges. The point where we get, the point in the south where we get that difference between snow and rain is pretty much right at Prince George. And of course, those mountain ranges on either side still getting that snow. Freezing levels will be lower. They'll come up briefly on Thursday, which is what we can see here as we look at our temperatures. Tomorrow, a little bit of a dip. Thursday, temperatures come back up a little bit, at least in the south, not so much in the north. There they continue to fall, especially the northwest. Then as we get into Friday, those temperatures start to drop once again, especially in those more northern areas, but in the south as well. Now, conditions for tomorrow, a fair amount of rain coming in the southern interior. That's in the afternoon. You might start to see some of those showers, but the morning should still see a fair amount of sunshine, especially around Kamloops, Kelowna, a little bit cloudier. And here's our 5-day forecast. Benit, lots of rain is on the way.
Feels like soup weather.
I'd say so. Sweater weather.
Thank you, Darius.
Thank you.
And thank you for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News. You can watch this newscast on our free CBC Gem app, as well as on YouTube. Of course, our website, that's cbc.ca/BC. And I hope you have a great night.